Adam, what is your advice for others?
Advice for young professionals. I think the biggest thing is to be passionate about what you do, to find something that you love and that ultimately you can get paid for at the end of the day. But to be passionate, I think one of the biggest things that I find most joy in is positively affecting others around me, and ultimately that becomes my employees and customers as well. But yeah, being passionate and being passionate about your cause, I think, is really important.
What is something interesting about yourself?
Interesting about myself. So I grew up in Lake Charles and moved to Shreveport. My wife's from Shreveport. But I've got two young boys and love the outdoors. Absolutely love the outdoors, and they do as well too. So a lot of my free time is sports with them, as well as hunting and fishing. So it's been fun teaching them these things.
What are you most passionate about and why?
I'm passionate about helping people. And kind of sounds interesting, right? Coming from a veterinarian, talking about, we deal with animals all day. But I think we really deal with people a lot more than I ever knew, on the front end of this career. We help people through animals, and animals are all part of our family. It's a big part of what we do every day, and I think animals help us. Animals help us physically, emotionally, with exercise and just being there for us. And so by helping animals, I feel that we're helping people. And the other end of it is the staff, and being a positive influence, helping them with their lives and with their careers. And as our business has grown, that's become a bigger part of it, is how are we influencing our staff members, our team? How are we helping them pursue their goals and dreams as well?
Catherine, what advice would you have for other young professionals?
Advice. I'm going to go down two roads with this one. One, make time to put your phone down and maybe take a nap and unplug and be a human being and maybe talk to another human being. I think personal dialect and body language is kind of going away, and we're behind these screens and we're not really being able to communicate, but as a human we still need that. And then down the other direction is good leaders know what they're good at. And I think that's a really important thing, to know your strength. Over the years, I have found out that it's important to know your weaknesses just as much and verbalize those and be proud that you have weaknesses, because you can't do it all. And find people whose talents are your weaknesses and say, hey, this is my goal with whatever it is, and you're good at something I'm not. You want to help me get there, and include them in on your bus and kind of your journey. And nobody should try to do it all. You'll get exhausted and overwhelmed and frustrated, and to kind of include people in on some of the awesomeness that you're doing.
What is something interesting about yourself? Give us all the details.
I think most people who know me know that I'm a little OCD. I'm a little type A. I can be really a fun extrovert, and so I deal with animals all the time, and I'm a scientist by nature, being a veterinarian, so I like very specific things. But I paint, and so I do some acrylic folk art kind of animals. I don't do anything with it. I just usually sit in my backyard and mess around with it. So that's kind of my yin to my yang personally. But I think if you ask my kids what's super interesting about me, I have two boys, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're just my little bodyguards. And this started last year. They were at a pep rally, and the Falcon, the mascot's the Falcon, was dancing and kind of doing some very specific dance moves that they only know, and then they realized their mom is their mascot. So now on Fridays, if there's a mascot needed at St. Joseph's, I throw on the bird outfit and I go do whatever the mascot needs to do. So I run out the tunnel and I high five the kids and take a bunch of pictures, and I absolutely love it. I was the mascot at Erie Drive in 8th grade, and so I feel like I'm reliving the glory days.
So Jana, what advice would you give others?
The advice that I have for other young professionals is don't be afraid to fail. Love what you do. If you love what you do and you have a passion for it, it doesn't feel like work. Live your word. Integrity is everything. Find a great balance between life and work. and never stop educating yourself.
You're so outgoing. What is something that is interesting about yourself?
I am obsessed with escape rooms. So I've done over 10 escape rooms in different cities with my partner, and every time we go somewhere different, we try and do one. I think it's a great team building exercise. It's fun. It shows how you work well with others, and I would challenge anybody with their team or their couple to go do one.
Finance is such an interesting major. What made you decide to go into that career field?
I did not decide early on when I was in college to be a banker. It wasn't until I started working in a bank that I decided that that was the industry for me. Being able to help people achieve their financial dreams, whether it's opening their first checking account or buying their first home or starting a business, I enjoy helping other people achieve their financial dreams.
What are you most passionate about and why? And also tell me a little bit more about some of the civic and nonprofit organizations that you support and that you believe in.
I've always been passionate about developing awareness for financial literacy. Over the last 16 years in the financial services industry, I've educated many children and youth on the importance of saving and budgeting and paying bills. And I feel like when you educate children at an early age, it helps develop financially responsible adults.
Julie, there are so many young folks out there who are interested in taking on a role in finance. What advice would you give them as young professionals following in your footsteps?
The biggest thing I would say is be part of the solution, and as opposed to complaining about whatever the current problems are, use that energy to actually come up with solutions and make things better.
We know you're very busy, but there has to be something that is very unique and interesting. Give us all the details. Tell me what's interesting about you.
So when I lived in New York City, I actually went to the FCI, the French Culinary Institute, and I had the opportunity to train under some famous chefs, Jacques Pepin, Morimoto, Marcus Samuelson, and Jacques Torres. So I love to cook for other people.
So why did you choose finance?
Well, I really couldn't have planned it if I would have tried. While I was a director at Tyco, I was introduced to a startup called Perceptive Intelligence. They needed someone to help them with business and finance just as they were getting started. And I sponsored them in the Louisiana Startup Prize here in Shreveport. When I went to the event, I actually met the director of EAP, Dave Smith. We started talking and he said, "Hey, do you want to move home to Shreveport and come work for me?" And I was like, "Let's talk about it." I had been wanting to get back to Shreveport and really come and help make a difference, so it really just was kind of meant to be.
You know, there's so many things to get involved in here in Shreveport. Tell us what you find most exciting and what are you passionate about?
Well, I'm really passionate about helping Shreveport regrow its tax base and the economic development here in Shreveport-Bossier. That's one of the reasons why I did actually move home. So I think it's been a really fun and challenging and interesting opportunity, and I really just love all of the energy that's around it right now.
What made you decide to go into your current career path?
I can remember as a kid, I was watching a sideline reporter. I initially wanted to go in and be a sports reporter. You know, I was watching this sideline reporter, and she was just telling this story, this incredible story about this athlete and just some of the hardships that he went through and struggled through to get him to where he was today. And I can remember telling myself at that moment, I want to share those stories of those people. I want to be able to share the stories from our community and the people that, even if they played sports, if they didn't, just the stories of our community to a broader audience. So I think at that point, whenever I was a little kid, I would start practicing in the mirror, being a sideline reporter. But my main goal was to really be able to share those interesting and human interest stories about the incredible people that are in our community.
Okay, so of course I want all the details. So tell me something interesting about yourself.
I was very competitive in sports growing up. I was a huge tomboy. I played pretty much every single sport you can imagine, and I was awarded a scholarship in college to go play soccer in college. And After every single time I was announced during our home soccer games, I would go onto the field and be announced as a starting lineup, and then I would walk back over to the scorers table and I would sing the national anthem. A lot of people had no idea that I could even sing, and most of my teammates had no idea. And so I think a lot of the people on the soccer field, my opponents, thought I was a little bit of a pushover, because who would think that this athlete would have this, angelic voice? But they learned quickly that I was not quite the pushover. So I was very tough and dominant on the soccer field. I wouldn't let people push me around just because I could sing a little bit. So even my teammates had no idea that I could sing until the first home game. I did that for 4 years too, while I was playing soccer there.
Sean, if you were to give us some of your best advice, what would that be for young career professionals?
I think the best advice I can offer is to embrace the grind, right? You're going to be working long nights, weekends, times when everybody else is at play. And so you need to embrace that work and that effort you're going to put in, because there's always going to be another mountain to climb, right? You're going to climb this mountain, but then there's going to be another one right over the horizon, and you just have to love what you do, or else you're going to get stuck on that first mountain.
So tell us something that's fun about you.
Well, I'm a huge nerd. I'm proud of it. I collect pop culture paraphernalia, read comic books. For example, I just bought a lightsaber that lights up. Yeah. And if you come to my office, I have statues and props and things like that.
So what made you choose your current career field and why?
I decided to go into my current career field because I had a professor early in college tell me that I had a flair for writing, and I actually kind of liked it. And so I thought, I need, what careers can you do with writing? You can write books, but that's a really hard road. I did the journalism thing and I found out, I don't want to be a reporter forever. And then I did the editor thing and I thought I don't want to be an editor forever. So I walked in my boss's office when I came back as editor of a newspaper in town, and I said, I know this is my second day back, but you know me, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. What's the next step for me? And so he put me on the path I'm on right now.
And then what would you say that you're most passionate about?
I think I'm really passionate about animals. I love animals. My wife and I, we foster kittens for the Shreveport Bossier Animal Rescue. The only thing I can do is open my door and open my home to them and give them, in some cases, a loving environment for whatever short remainder of their life they've had. Or I can set them up and find them a good home when the time comes.
So Jordan, as young professionals, seek to have greater roles and responsibilities here in Shreveport, what advice would you give them?
So the advice I would have for other young professionals is just to be yourself and know that the job that you were hired for, there was a reason that you were hired for it, and have confidence in that. That was something that I struggled with early in my career, is not having the confidence or knowing why I had this job, or they're going to fire me, or what's going to happen. But once I settled into that and knew I was hired for a reason, and to draw some confidence from that, I really saw myself flourish and really succeed.
Tell us something unique and interesting about yourself.
In a span of 18 months, I got married, got pregnant, bought a house, bought a new car, and both me and my husband started new careers in 18 months. And so I think from that crazy year and a half, I really learned a lot about myself and life challenges, and just kind of ripped the Band-Aid off. And so and in the middle of that too, I lost 2 family members. So it was every single life event that could possibly happen to you happened to me in a span of 18 months.
What made you choose your current career field? You seem to be so active in the community, so tell us a little bit more about your path.
In college, I majored in journalism, so I knew I loved and knew how to write a story. So I didn't feel like traditional journalism was the best fit for me, so PR really was appealing to me. You could still tell people's stories, you get to write, it was an industry that I just really loved, paired with advertising and communication.
What gets you up in the morning? What are you most passionate about and why?
I found that once I had my son, I found a community and a sense of support from other new moms. When you're a new mom, you're going through something that's so hard, and I felt like a bomb went off in my house and in my marriage and in my life when this precious baby came into the world. And a lot of times I felt alone, and so I feel really passionate about helping and supporting other new moms with that journey and making sure that they feel like you got this and you're not alone, and it's okay to be scared and it's okay to be sad, but it's also, you can feel joy and happiness at the same time.
Wendy, what is a piece of advice that has helped you that you could share that would help others?
I think the advice that makes the most difference in my life is to have a plan and to write it down and speak it out loud. That really, I think, forces some accountability and really helps me move in the right direction, I think. And I do this, I try to do it at least once a year and really focus on goals and growth from a personal standpoint, professional standpoint, in my family life. So just really sitting down and being intentional with goals and thoughts and the steps that it'll take to get to that process.
Tell us something interesting about yourself.
I do have a good story that I don't think everyone has. I was once attacked by a kangaroo in real life, and my husband had to save me from this kangaroo that had me in its grasps. It's kind of a long and detailed story, but we'll just leave it at that. So anybody, feel free to ask.
What made you decide to go into your current career field, and why are you passionate about it?
When I first decided to go to law school, I think I was a sophomore at Tulane at the time, and I really liked the idea of helping others from a standpoint of child advocacy or elder advocacy. A lot of what I do in my day-to-day practice is estate planning and long-term care planning for elderly people, and really helping children, next generations, with the decisions of how to care for their aging parents, and the best steps to take for the family and how to communicate these types of plans. And then the child advocacy side is something that I'm very passionate about children, and I appreciate the fact that my education gives me the opportunity to help kids who are in the foster care system or who are trying to navigate the legal system on their own.
So, Nico, where are you currently employed, and what is your current job title?
Stationed out here at Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City. My current job title is First Sergeant. The First Sergeant is an organizational leader, basically responsible for the morale, the discipline, the welfare, and the readiness for all of our people to get out there and accomplish the mission. So I'm the voice of the people to the commander, and I'm the voice of the commander to the people. So I'm that middle piece, and all issues get funneled through me, and make sure the job gets done and the people are taken care of.
Being so busy in the military, what civic and nonprofit organizations do you support and that you're a part of?
So on the installation, I'm a part of what's called Operation Warm Heart. Operation Warm Heart is a nonprofit where we raise funds throughout the year, and we take care of individuals that find themselves in situations where they need maybe emergency funding to travel to see a loved one who's sick or lost their lives, or someone had their credit card stolen and all of their money was gone. So we provided a grant for that.
Tell us something interesting about yourself. I know you're so busy serving and protecting our freedom, but tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a pretty boring guy, so that's not too much interesting going on. I would say, so I cut hair as a hobby. Started cutting my own hair when I was in my teenage years, about 13, 14. So spent a lot of days getting laughed at in the classroom. A lot of school days being laughed at, and people pointing the finger. But eventually got good at it, and became a barber to my family members, friends, co-workers, and it just became a hobby over time. So that's my little thing.
And what advice would you give for other young professionals?
The best advice I can think about is making time for yourself and for your loved ones. I mean, so often we get so caught up in our professional jobs, our duties, and once you're proven to be reliable, folks call on you and pull you in different directions, which is great, and what we do is great, but oftentimes we can be so consumed with that we burn ourselves out and oftentimes neglect our families.
Taylor, what advice would you give other young professionals?
My advice for other young professionals would be yourself. Don't change for anybody. There will be people who will try to press you to do certain things, go certain ways, but follow your heart and do what you think is best for the community.
What is something unique about Taylor Jamison?
So I am an avid beer and bourbon collector. My fiance and I, we travel all across the world to try different beers, try different bourbon, rum. We love it. We love sightseeing and visiting different destinations.
So how did you choose your current career path and why? I know so many young professionals are interested in learning about your trajectory.
So the reason why I went to this current career field was I want to help small businesses, particularly minority companies. You often don't find somebody who's the voice for minority companies. So I saw this opportunity and I took it instantly. It's a passion of mine. I love small businesses, minority companies, and disadvantaged businesses to help the community.
So what are you most passionate about? Tell us why. We'd love to get a glimpse into what really gets you going and what gets you motivated.
So I'm passionate about our community. We have a great school system, great food, great people. I'm really passionate about taking us to that next level. I like to stay involved in our community. I really want to see us as a community grow.